Welcome to the Social Angle, a podcast that helps promo pros gain an edge in the social media realm. I'm digital content director Vinny Driscoll, and on this episode, I am joined by Jenna Quaranta, VP of Sales and Business Innovation at NOS Apparel, to discuss prospecting tips for newbies. Jenna, welcome to the Social Angle.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited for this conversation.
Yeah, I'm excited too. How are things out in Newport Beach, California today?
Kind of gloomy.
Really?
Hopefully I'll get outside and do an outside workout today. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, out here on the East Coast, it's been brutally hot and it's been brutally dry. But today's not too bad. It's going to be about 90 degrees and no rain in the forecast. We could certainly use it. But you guys, I know out in California, you're always thirsting for some rain. So um, now I know what it feels like to live out in California.
Yeah, exactly. It's beautiful. I'm looking at palm trees as we speak, so no complaints.
Can't complain, right? Yeah.
uh, no.
Again, so we're talking to Jenna Quaranta, and we are talking prospecting tips for newbies. We're going to cover a lot today, not just that, and we'll get into it. But Jenna, before we get started, can you give us a brief introduction of who you are, what you do, and how you found yourself in the promo industry?
Yeah, crazy story, actually. Every time I think about it, I'm like, holy crap, how did this happen? So I was actually in the fitness industry for 11 years, the majority of my life. So I was a personal trainer. I ran gyms. I was the general manager. I was a fitness manager. And I love people. I love serving people. I loved helping people meet their physical needs and hit their physical goals. And from there, I started working for Equinox Fitness, one of the best fitness brands in the world, if you ask me. And I was running their flagship West Hollywood location. And working in that environment became less about helping people hit their goals. It became more about helping people be sexy and hot. And it got old real quick for me. So I ended up just deciding, I want an office job. I want to work a normal office job with normal people. And I just want to sell stuff. I love sales. I love talking to people. And so I threw my resume up on, at the time, Craigslist, which is like super shady now, but Craigslist, Indeed. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Right. What a nerd. And I got a phone call back from a gentleman named Larry Maraminguez. And at the time, Larry was the inside sales manager for Alpha Broder. He left me a voicemail. I was working out. I'll never forget the moment. I had this voicemail, and it was this guy saying, "Hey Larry, hey Jen, I'm Larry Maraminguez with Alpha Broder. I'd love to interview you for the inside sales position." Had no idea who Alpha was, had no idea what they did. All I knew is I just wanted a normal job. So I took the interview, and within, I don't know, 20 to 30 minutes of that first interview, Vincent, I knew I wanted to be at Alpha Broder, but I still didn't understand what they did.
Sure.
But I knew I wanted to be there. I had met my future colleagues that I'm still very, very close with, many of them. Larry impressed me. The VP of sales at the time, Chris Blakesley, impressed me. And I just thought, man, I want to be like that guy. He's such a rock star. And he's over at Bella Canvas now.
Right.
So I knew that I wanted to be a part of what they were doing. I saw, Adidas on the wall, Bella Canvas. I saw American Apparel. And I just knew I wanted to be there. Once I got my feet wet, I would say within probably 2 months or so, I remember saying to myself, I'm going to be the best inside sales rep this company's ever had. And I spent 3 years with the inside sales team there at Alpha. And then I said to myself, I need to be an outside sales rep. I'm going to be the best outside sales rep this company's ever had. And I made my, climbed the ladder, fought my way up to the top. And I ended my career with Alpha in 2019. So gracious for my time there. I love those people. As the senior consultant for the company, and I managed the larger relationships for the West Coast. So I was in that seat for about 2 or 3 years. And then I realized I need experience on the customer side. So I jumped to the distributor side, and I was so blessed to work with a company, a Facilis member, DSG International, out here in El Segundo. Just 2 incredible guys that I got to work with for 2 years. And now I'm here at NOS Apparel, and could not be more blessed. This was absolutely my destiny to be back on the supplier side. And I knew that. I just thought I'd be doing it for Alpha Broder, but couldn't be more blessed to be here.
So you had no sales experience.
In promo, no. The only sales experience I had was selling myself
right
in person to folks trying to, I just want to be the trainer, let me change your life. And so I did that by free education. I used to stand in 24 Hour Fitness as a trainer. Oh my gosh. I have not even talked about this in years. I used to stand at the bottom of the staircase. So upstairs was all the weight machines and dumbbells and whatnot. Downstairs with all the cardio, basketball courts. I used to stand at the bottom of the stairs with a little table, like a card table that I would bring every day, and I would just hand out free fitness tips. I would hand out on a little piece of paper, like a fortune cookie, right? That
Sure.
size.
Yeah.
Hydration facts, female, how the female body absorbs protein. So I just gave free information away, and I just had at the time my email address. Holy crap! It was Dimple Ree. My mother made it. Dimple Dimple Ree. My middle name is Marie. They call me Riri, but Dimple Ree at sbcglobal.net. And I would say, have you had questions, just shoot me an email. And that's how I'd get clients. Just giving free information away.
Right.
And that was in 2000 up until 2010. That still works. Giving free education, over delivering, and giving, no matter what you sell, that still works.
It's fascinating. Like I always ask people the question like how they got into the promo industry because more often than not, people get into this industry in strange ways. Myself included. I took a job back in 2007 for ASI for really website management. No social media experience because in 2007, social media for a business really wasn't around.
Yeah.
And so I had to learn all of that on the fly. I didn't know about this industry. And a lot of people that I talk to on this podcast are in the same boat. They sort of find their way into this industry.
Yeah.
They've never heard of it before they get here, and then they're in it and they love it. And there's no turning back. For me, it's 15 years. I've been here 15 years. I never thought I would be in this industry this long. My first year, I was like, I kind of don't get this. Like it's B2B. I don't,
Yeah.
it wasn't really kind of brought up in this industry. It takes some time to get used to. So yeah, listening to people tell their stories about how they find their way into promo is always a fascinating way to kind of learn a little bit more about them.
I don't know how people leave. I love this industry. I have some of my dearest friends. I've been doing this in this industry since 2010. I don't know how people leave. In fact, one of my sales reps, Christine Ing, she left and went to Urban Outfitters, and I was like, no, I'm going to rein you back in. My daughter's 10. Sometimes I'm like, golly, I wish I could bring Gracie into this because it's such a special industry. But
Well,
she's going a
they
different
do
direction.
leave. They do
Yeah,
leave and they come back. I've seen it
100%.
happen many times. People leave the industry and then they come back, with another company or something. And that's what this industry is all about. It's, relationships, a lot of great people, and it's hard when you leave, because you do realize that you've built some really amazing relationships, and
Yeah.
once you understand this industry and once you get it and once it clicks, it's a tough industry to leave. I'll give you that. So let's get into the nuts and bolts of what we're here to talk about. And I really want to kind of talk about a quote that you posted on LinkedIn because you're very active on LinkedIn. You wrote on NAS Apparel's page because you do a lot of their copywriting for their page. You wrote, "We feel the future of outreach is growing your network, then selling to your existing network as opposed to reaching out to strangers." I love this quote. Can you explain what you mean by this and the role social media plays in growing your network?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So in life in general, transparency wins the race. So doesn't matter what the hell you're selling. I don't give a shit what you're selling. If you're not transparent with the person you're trying to sell that product to, what are you doing? And so the way that I look at LinkedIn is, the way that I look at social media in general is I look at it as I'm hosting a dinner party. And every time I post on LinkedIn or Instagram or Facebook, whatever it is, I am hosting a dinner party and I am inviting folks to my home to sit at my table, eat my food, and hear what I have to say. So it better be damn good. I hate my time wasted. And it should bother anyone when somebody is wasting your time. So if you're posting on social media, don't waste people's time. Make sure it's solid content that is educational or something that is of value to them. So in regards to that quote, the way that I approach LinkedIn or Instagram is, building an audience, building my own network. So for me, I get behind the camera all the time. You probably see that. I'm always behind the
Hmm.
camera. I always send voice messages. I sent you a voice message.
Yep.
So I make a point to be completely personal. I rarely send emails. I rarely reply to LinkedIn messages with typing. I usually send I use Loom or I send a voice message. What I am doing is I am building a network. I am building my own community. I am branding myself. And then from there, I am absolutely over delivering and figuring out in that moment what's their pain point. How can I help them? Versus just picking up the phone and calling on some stranger. So every single day, without fail, I easily send between 20 and 50 messages, introduction messages to Halo reps, ASB reps, Nadell reps, Facilis members, you name it. I'm sending a quick introduction of who I am, and I am very crystal clear with my intent. I am letting them know, hey, I am looking to connect with future customers. That's it. So when they connect, either I've already strategically planned to attack them at a different time, or I am waiting for them to connect. I thank them, and then I am very direct. I ask them to earn 15 to 20 minutes on their calendar when they have time to share more about what they do. I don't talk about NOS. I don't talk about the polo shirts I have to offer. No one cares. You know what people care about? How you can help them change their life. So that's
Right.
my approach. And that is where my fitness, I'm so thankful that I was put in that place in my life for 11 years in the fitness industry to really physically sell myself and change people's lives. I got a taste of that. And then I was like, holy shit, I want to do this the rest of my life. So that's kind of the way that I approach LinkedIn, and the way that I approach Instagram is I am focused on building my own audience, my own network. And those are the people that I attack.
I
Those are the
love
people that I pursue.
Totally. I love that answer. It's like a microcosm of what my show is all about. It's about building relationships on social media. That to me, I think is where the the biggest utility of social media comes into play. It's
Yeah.
not about pushing out your sales sheets and posting your content and
Oh,
without any
it's the
type of
worst.
rhyme or reason. It's about engaging with people. It's about building your network, about forging the relationships people buy from those they know, like, and trust. Like, social media is free. Use it to your advantage. And then, like, kind of a segue to my next question is about cold calling versus warm calling. Social media allows you to warm up a cold call. I've been telling people for years, hey, look, cold calls don't have to happen anymore. Like, you can
No.
use social media, you can learn so much about a person, about somebody that you want to target before you even target them. Social media is and look, people use privacy settings, and yes, it's some people it's harder to kind of crack than others, but
Yeah.
social media allows you to find out about people, and it can help you get that inroad that you're going to need to find out more about these people. You can find out birthdays, like things that you can just kind of slide in and
Do your research.
do your research. And
People are vetting us every single day, right? I'm a startup, right? NOS Apparel is a startup. I know that people are vetting me on Instagram, they're vetting me on Facebook, and they're vetting me on LinkedIn. What the hell is this girl going to say next? Who is our team? Holy crap! It's a team of ex Alpha Broder folks. I know that that's what's happening right now. So it is so important that myself, Elson, Christine, Melissa, Lee, Ryan, Noss, that we are always consistent with what we're promoting and pushing out there, but that we are also sharing about our lives.
right,
That
right,
is transparency. I am very vocal that my dad is my best friend. I'm very vocal that my dad is my role model. I am very vocal that my daughter is my life. I am very vocal that I love my little 8-pound chihuahua. People get it. Like, I work out every single day, so I am completely transparent. There's no bullshit here, and so it's really easy to spot on social media. I can think of 2 people right now in my head. It's really easy to spot on social media the fakes. They're not consistent.
right, right,
So it's like, don't be like that. Let
right.
people in, let people see who you really are, and let them make a decision at that point.
No, I
Share
agree.
yourself, let people
I
in.
I agree 100%. Humanize yourself. You are your personal brand. Make
Yeah.
yourself relatable, make yourself
Yeah.
human, and that will make you relatable. And people will go to people that they know, like, and
Yeah.
trust. And that's kind of, the kind of the gist of it. They're like, hey, if you use social media enough, which I know you do, they're going to say, hey, I know Jenna. I can approach her. Boom. It's like you stay top of mind with all the social media that you do. Now, I got to, back up for a second to the cold call. Now, I know cold calling is still a thing. I was never into sales. But with social media, do you believe that people should be making cold calls still in 2022? Is there a place for that, or is it only warm calls for you?
Okay. So I don't know if this is going to answer your question, but this is my answer. I went to ASI last week, Chicago, right? NOS Apparel did not have a booth. It was me. And I went for one reason. I went to prospect and I went to cold call. So for me, I cold called all week last week. I went to 3 separate Starbucks around McCormick Place just to look for people with ASI badges to figure out who was a supplier, who was a distributor. And I introduced myself, gave out free hats and business cards to anyone I saw, whether they were a distributor or a supplier, because my job here at NOS is to spread the good word about what we were doing. I physically was cold calling all week last week. Okay. I walked back with numbers of meetings and interest, and my team has been slammed with the follow up. So, me extending my hand in an elevator to a lady that I met who actually has already given us a really nice hat opportunity. I saw that she had a badge in the elevator. I extended my hand. I said, "Hey, I'm Jenna Caranta. I'm the vice president of sales over at NOS Apparel. We're a startup." I gave her a hat and I said, "I would love to earn 20 minutes on your calendar next week. I want to learn more about what you do." And she said, "Oh my gosh, I'm actually looking for hats right now." And so we covered our field hat, and I think we're going to get the order. So
Nice.
cold calling for me, it could mean, in person, or it could mean, well, shit, this person is an ASB rep. I am going to just cold call them. I'm going to introduce
Right.
myself. Why not? If you're in sales, you should be prepared to introduce yourself to anyone and everyone at the drop of a hat,
And I
which is
think you
probably
got,
going to lead you to the elevator pitch.
well, yeah. I mean, look, I think you set yourself up really well for this type of cold calling through your fitness. Like just having a booth, not a booth, but like having a table, handing out your card. I think that is kind of, you've been set up to
Yeah.
accept that that is a reality of the salesperson, and it sounds like you do it really well.
Well, my dad, I watched, well, both of my parents. Both of my parents own their own business, and my dad was just he's such a fantastic leader. So I grew up watching my dad excel, and what he did was he talked to everyone. My dad, to this day, I mean, growing up, people would say, "What, Bob? What are you doing? Writing a book?" Because my dad, all he does is ask questions, even to this day. Sometimes it still annoys me. I love you, Dad, if you're watching. But I get that from him. I'm totally my father's daughter. I ask questions. I ask a lot of questions, but that's how you learn. I don't really
Right.
have much to share. Let me ask you what I need to know, and then I'm going to find a very strategic way to attack.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're pretty much an extreme extrovert, which I think helps when you're going to be asking lots of questions. I know as somebody who's an introvert, I'm introverted, but I have learned, especially with doing the show, that I have to kind of come out of my shell, and I have to, be able to put myself in uncomfortable situations. And I've been doing
Yeah,
that for a while, and it's almost like it's now a new normal for me. But
yeah.
it doesn't mean I'm comfortable with it all the time. Now, for introverts who may not be good at asking questions, what kind of advice could you give them?
Get out of your own way. If you're in sales, you can be an introvert on the weekends. That's cool. But at the end of the day, if you are afraid to get behind the camera, if you're afraid to post on social media, if you're afraid to do engagements like this, then why are you in sales? People are going to come in and take your relationships. They're going to steal your business. And that's just the way it is. So it's okay. I actually feel like this is crazy. I actually feel like in the last year I've learned about myself. I think I'm actually an introvert. I
Oh,
am.
okay.
I actually recharge. Alone time is really important to me.
Yep.
I have a hard time being in large groups. Um, I do much better with one-on-one, one-on-three conversations. To be honest, I was nervous about this today. Holy crap! Yesterday, I told Christine Ing, who works on my team, I was like, I'm like really nervous. I get nervous about situations like this,
Sure.
but
I
I
still
just
do.
have. Yeah, but Christine's like, it's just a conversation, and she's right. Right,
Right.
it's a conversation. But at the end of the day, it's fine that you're an introvert, extrovert. That's fine, but you can't be afraid to introduce yourself.
Right.
If
I
you
agree.
are, you're probably should not be doing sales.
Right. And or social media. And we
Yeah,
talked about putting yourself out there on social media. Um, Having you become part of the conversation, you're part of, what your business is doing.
yeah,
You can't be afraid to be in front of the camera. I learned, years ago that, hey, if I'm going to be doing the bulk of ASI social media, I have to at some point get in front of the camera. And then, this is back in 2016, 2017, when the live stream started becoming popular. I was like, oh my God, I don't want to do this. but I
Yeah.
forced myself to do it. Same principle for sales. Like you're going to have to put yourself out there at some point. If you're an introvert, you can do it. And sorry that I assumed that you were an extrovert because
No, it's okay.
you're just,
I thought I was my whole life. If this is only
yeah.
listen. I'm going to open up here, transparent for the people that are watching. I'm going through a divorce. I got married in 2019. I filed for divorce. Unfortunately, I had to file for divorce in 2021, very early in 2021. With that being said, through that process, I have learned I am not what I thought I was. I thought I was an extrovert my entire life because everyone told me I was. I'm not.
Huh. It's
Yeah.
amazing because I've been learning more about it. And like you said, like introverts recharge
Yeah.
in isolation.
Yeah.
they're people who
Yes.
get their energy from being alone. And my
Yeah.
wife is the opposite of me. She gets her energy from being in crowds and being around others and going on vacation and doing all that. Me, like I'm the opposite, and I've learned, that's how this works. And whether or not you're introvert, extrovert, you can overcome the situations in which you're not
Yeah.
comfortable in. And
Yeah.
I think being in sales, extrovert, introvert doesn't matter. You just have to
It
be able,
doesn't.
yeah, you have to figure out how to make it work if you want to get to where you want to be.
Yeah. And here's the thing, right? We've been running this business boot camp that has absolutely taken off for us. We call it field training. In field training, every week there is a coaching tip. And let me tell you, tip number week one is elevator pitch and get out of your own damn way.
Hmm,
So most people, myself included, I get in my own way sometimes.
sure.
Seriously, I do. Right? Get out of your own way. Extrovert, introvert, doesn't matter. Just you have to be comfortable. No, that's not true. You have to have a passion for people. You need to have a passion to help people and serve people. And for me, I have a passion to change people's lives, whether that is through this or through wellness or through NAS apparel. That's yeah.
Well, that's great. So let's get to the questions that everyone's here for, and I'm really excited. We have a lot of comments coming in, and we'll get to those in a second. Now, when it comes to prospecting, Jenna, I have to ask you, which networks, and I think I know the answer that you're going to give me here. Which networks do you find work best for your needs?
LinkedIn for sure.
Okay.
That's where I am starting the. Let me tell you what I do. So yesterday I was cold calling prospecting on a group of ASB reps that I have yet to connect with. I connected with them on LinkedIn, introduced myself, was clear with my intent. I want to connect with you because you're a future customer for me. Then from there, I find them on Instagram. I send a follow request and then I send a voice message. And then I say, hey, just connect with you on LinkedIn. I'm hoping that I can earn some time on your calendar. This for me is the best place to connect because Instagram is. I live on Instagram all day,
Sure.
just with customers. I get quote requests on Instagram.
Yeah.
Seriously, yeah, it's crazy. So that's what I do. I'm just building relationships. That's what I know how to do. That's really all I know how to do. So
No, it's
prospecting for me.
fascinating. It's fascinating for me to hear. I mean, I know LinkedIn works for many people's needs in this industry. And that's one network that I would say, hey, if you have to be on one network, that's probably the one that you should be on. But again, like it depends on what your needs are and where your
Mhm,
audience is.
mhm.
I'm also a big believer in Facebook groups. Like Facebook groups,
Yeah,
without groups, Facebook might as well not even exist from a business perspective. I don't believe
100%.
Yeah, I don't believe in Facebook from a business perspective. Like, business pages are good as sort of like a digital
Sure.
yellow pages for your business
Yeah.
because, I feel like if you don't have a presence, sometimes on Facebook, people will go somewhere else. But groups are where people are doing business in our industry. LinkedIn for sure. It's the most buttoned up social media. It's for businesses and business people. And you mentioned Instagram. Instagram is huge. You mentioned you get quotes through your Instagram DMs. Like that is not uncommon in this industry. People are doing business through their DMs on Instagram.
Because people are on social media and it's the easiest way to connect. I give my phone number out to people that need it, but people seem to want to connect on Instagram. And so even now, crazy, I don't text as much. I slip into people's DMs.
Right. All right. So let's see what we got as far as comments and questions. We seem to have a lot here. Let's see. A lot of shout out to some of your your quotes here. We've got Sheena Marie says educational content is definitely super sticky, and we preach that here on this show. Use social media to educate. Like if
Yeah.
you're educating people on social media, you're not selling, but you're coming in as a thought leader. You're somebody who is providing value, and I think that's very, very important. And you're going to stay top of mind. And when
Yes.
somebody has a problem and they need a solution, you may be the one that they think of because you're the one on social media providing the value, providing the education, and they'll be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, okay, maybe I'll reach out to so and so," and then all of a sudden you have a potential, business relationship. So to me, I feel like you're the expert of what you do, and I say that all the time. You know, there should not be imposter syndrome on social media. If you are the expert in your field, which you are, you're a small business owner. For a lot of people in this industry, you know your business better than anyone, right? So get on there and educate
Yeah.
the
Oh my
people
gosh.
about what you do.
If you're not, listen, if you own a business, okay, so 52% of small business owners post on social media every single day. That other 48%, I don't know what the heck you guys are doing. It's social. Come on, let's don't get behind the camera. Start connecting with people. Start building your network. Start building loyalty, customer loyalty, and see what happens. I promise you, your business will boom. It will,
I agree.
100%.
And I talk about this a lot, and I say, especially for those introverts, the people who are apprehensive about getting in front of the camera, the ones who fear imposter syndrome, the ones who don't think that they should be doing, what the kids are doing, the interns are
Yeah.
doing. Like, forget all that bullshit. That is no longer the case. It's not 2010 anymore. Like you can do it. Like you can get in front of that camera. You can educate. You can promote who you are, what your business stands for, your values,
Yep.
all that. Once you do that, you're going to realize that your business is going to be, more relatable, more human, and more
Yeah.
approachable.
Yes. And also please post about real shit. Don't post workouts you're not actually doing. Don't post post real shit because otherwise it's really easy to tell who the fakes are. Okay. The rule for Instagram and for LinkedIn for myself is ask. Give. So it's like it just ebb and flow. You
Right,
have to over deliver. You have to
right,
earn that trust.
right.
Don't post fake shit.
I love it. All right. So Rebecca Lynn writes, as an introvert myself, I enjoy being behind the scenes, support of these types of amazing salespeople. Y'all are the absolute best, very inspiring. I used to feel the same way, Rebecca, until I wasn't forced to be in front of the camera. But to me, I knew I had to get outside of my discomfort zone and get in front of the camera and make it happen. And it has happened. I'm
Yeah.
still nervous about being in groups and being at shows, but I've been able to kind of push myself out of that
Yeah.
zone.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I also want to plug one thing. Rebecca, thank you for joining. So, Vincent, Rebecca is actually on my team. That woman is a rock star. She makes NOS happen behind the scenes. Thank you, Rebecca. You're a godsend.
That's
Um,
awesome.
she's a godsend. But that's the reality. I went through something super gnarly in 2017. I was involved in a mass shooting, and I made a decision after that just to be myself. I don't give a shit. If I have haters, great. If people don't like me, that's fine. I'm not for everyone, and I know that. But the reality is, I definitely just have such a passion to help people, and I don't want my time wasted, and I'm not going to waste
Right,
your time, And so the way that I look at social media is, if I am going to post something, it is my dinner party. It's something you need to know.
right, right. And you post all the time, which to me, I feel like you have a lot to say and it's valuable. So, kudos to you for understanding, the value that social media brings to any conversation and for doing
Yeah.
it right. Like I wouldn't have you on the show if I didn't think what you were doing
Oh,
was valuable. So,
thank
kudos
you.
to you, and I'm glad that you're doing some really cool things. Now, I need to ask you this question because this is one of those questions that you know I don't often ask people because I
Don't
don't
make me
want.
cry. I cry
No,
really
no, no,
easy.
no,
Okay.
no. This is one of those questions. Like It's about spilling the secret sauce about using
Mm,
social media.
mm.
Can you give a quick example of how you would use social media to prospect? You may have gone over this a little bit,
Yeah.
but people in this industry, especially, they want real world examples of how you went from A, which is basically a cold call, to Z, which is a transaction. Can you give us how social media can fill in the gaps between A and Z?
Yeah. So for Nos Apparel, I'm going to walk you through our three steps of the sales cycle because that's important to answering this question. This is actually, in my opinion, what every sales cycle should be. Three stages. The find stage, we're identifying the targets, we're finding the
Hmm.
prospects, right? The find stage. Then we move into the win stage. The job here is to win the relationship. We're not winning orders, we're winning the relationship.
Right,
We're winning
right.
over the loyalty, okay? And then the last stage of the cycle, which is where you're going to live forever, is the grow stage. You're constantly trying to grow, re-engage, over-deliver, give, ask, re-deliver, right? So for me, in the find stage is the social media prospecting, right? So
Hmm.
for me, for example, I'll bring this up again. ASB, if you guys are listening, obviously you guys are a big target for us. ASB, right? So I will go, there's a ton of sales reps I have yet to connect with. So
Sure.
I know they are a target. I have found my target. Boom, I go into the win stage. Now I'm going to reach out to them. I am going to be using my elevator pitch. I am going to state my intent, which is I want to connect with you because you are a future customer for me. And then from there, I move forward. So with that being said, I think that prospecting on LinkedIn you should be doing every single day. I don't care if you're a realtor, it doesn't matter what you do. I had a chef cold call on me last night. He sent me a message and said, I see that you are the VP of sales for a large corporation. If you are planning any corporate events, here is my menu, here's my price range, here's my information.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I'm just like, bro, thank you for reaching out. You never know. He's in San
Right,
Diego. I
right.
mean, you never know, he cold called me and I took the bait and I'm into it.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, he was just super authentic, and super, super legit. So I appreciate his style, but when it comes to prospecting on LinkedIn or Instagram, just be real. Figure out who the target is and let them know. You don't have to make up this story of like,
Right,
hey, let's
right,
connect.
right.
Just
And
freaking be honest.
I think
I
it's
want to sell to
important
you.
though, he did his research. And it's the
Yeah.
people that do the research, even though maybe you're not interested in what they're trying to sell, right? Okay, you're not interested, but they know something about you, they know something about your business. They've done their homework. And while most of those go unanswered, they're cold calls, it's kind of like, okay, I'm not going to answer this person. There's something that stands out for those types of contacts that says, that you'll remember this person did their homework. They looked me up. They found information about me. They know who I work for. Look, with social media, it's not that hard. It's not that hard to find out information about people. But when you get these random unsolicited DMs that have nothing to do with
Oh my gosh.
anything, it's so frustrating.
Wait, do you want to know what I do when I get those? No joke. I got one last week. Some guy hit me up and he was trying to sell me some like B2C platform. I'd love to meet with you. It sounds like we're in line with what Nasa Apparel does. I responded back and I said, do you even know what I do? I am not a good fit for you. This was a waste of your time and now you're wasting mine. Please move on. That's all I said.
Yeah, yeah. And
I
look,
don't care.
I would love to have the time to do that because I don't. Not that you have time to do that, but I've thought about doing those types of things. But I get so many of them where I'm just like, oh my god, like,
Oh,
what do they think I do? Like, I just move on. I ignore it.
no research. They're not doing
Yeah,
research. And you know what they are? Those are the people with the satchels, with the bird feed, and they're just throwing the bird feed.
that's right.
Hey, bro, target fit, do your research. And
Yeah,
so when I prospect, I like when we're done, I'm definitely going to hit. I have about 30 ASB reps I'm going to plan to hit after you and I are done today. So with that being said, I have my target and I'm going to stick with that until I'm done, until I've accomplished that task. And then I'm going to move on to Halo. Then I'll probably move on to Bamco. That's the
ASB,
plan
you're
here.
on notice. You're
Yeah.
you're up
Heads
next.
up. I'm coming for
All
you.
right, so Kate Plummer has a great question. Hi,
Kate.
Kate. Yeah, we both know
Love this
Kate.
woman.
So do you plan any of your posts, or are they all on the fly? Great question.
Great question, Kate. It actually gives me an opportunity to compliment my team. So, separate parts here. Christine Ing, who is on my team, and then Melissa Zerkaufman, they are my inside NOS consultants. So, they're our inside sales rep. They have a marketing background. That has been my approach here at NOS Apparel. I'm not hiring sales reps. You guys can get that everywhere else. The industry does not need another promotional products sales rep. What the industry needs is service and folks that over deliver and help you grow your business the right way. So I brought them on because I wanted folks with a marketing background. With that being said, those two women, along with Lee and the rest of our creative team, they run our social media. And I would say they plan it probably a week out. We are constantly pivoting. Christine is constantly pivot. Reel, we'll save this for next week. We got to post this reel this week. So she plans a week out. When it comes to LinkedIn, Kate, or Instagram, definitely just on the fly. If my gut feels like, oh, I should post something, it's just a gut feeling.
Yeah, I love that question. I love the honesty of your answer because I think most of what I post it is planned out, in advance. I check calendars. I try to find trending topics that I think will be trending in the future. If you
Mm-hmm.
go to the National Day calendar, like a couple weeks ago was Social Media Day, and I hosted my own social media chat with people in the industry who do social media, and that was, we had a tremendous response to that. So to me, we plan out. There are things though that come down the pipe that we're like, hey, we have to do something today. Eh, You know, um,
Sure.
something happens, breaking news, things like that, where we have to kind of do things on the fly. But for the most part, uh, we plan out our stuff too. And it's good to know that, you guys, you have a team in place who takes social media seriously and you're actually planning it out and thinking forward. Like to
Yeah.
me,
Like I have stuff in my head where I'm like, oh, I really want to do a post next week, which look forward to it because I'm going to do it, on how hydration can affect memory, how hydration can improve, what we're doing day to day.
right, right,
So there's those ideas, but then it's really for me, I just kind of go rogue and day of and go, oh, but
right.
yeah, because honestly, bro, like other than if I'm planning my social media out, I just don't feel like it's for me, it's authentic. I don't feel that way.
Yeah.
Like it has to be a gut feeling for me. But from the business standpoint for Nas Apparel, we do plan a week out.
Yeah. No, I get it. From a personal perspective, you may do things a little bit differently,
Yeah.
than what you do from a business perspective, and that's
Mhm.
fine too. I do think that from a business perspective, planning out, at least having a calendar in place,
Yeah.
like for ASI, we have a lot of editorial that we follow, and we know that like right now, state of the industry last week was Counselor Awards. We have a lot going on that we can plan out,
Yeah.
well in advance. But there are things that come up that if you post on the fly seem a little bit more authentic than
Yeah.
what might be the planned stuff. But I'm a big believer in doing things real time. Like scheduling is okay when you need to do it, but you know there's something to be said about posting videos, live streams, doing things real time that seem more authentic than something that posts at, I don't know, 11 o'clock on a Friday night that is like, hey, we're posting news content. You're not posting it real time. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
So to me, I think that it's very important that you also kind of balance out what you're doing, as a business, planned out versus what you're doing real time and authentic. So.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. Can I just say something? I saw Ellie twice now. Is Ellie, thank you for supporting my daughter. Thank you for that. Very sweet
Yeah, she
comment.
wrote, "Watching Gracie dance is the best,
Oh,
absolutely mesmerizing." And
thank
I
you.
know that she had posted something earlier about Gracie. All right, so you mentioned wellness. We're gonna get to that in a second. Now, I want to go back to the elevator pitch. Now, pre internet, pre social media, elevator pitch was verbal. Is now when it comes to elevator pitches on social media, I know you mentioned that you are a big fan of doing actual like recorded videos and posting them to people's DMs. So what what do you think works best? Do you still believe in the audio, the actual spoken word, or can you do an elevator pitch well through text?
Absolutely. Both. 100%. Yeah, I use an elevator pitch every day. Listen, you're even if you're not in sales, you're selling yourself every single day. If you're dating, you're selling yourself, right?
Hmm.
That's a sale. So at the end of the day, I definitely believe that everyone needs an elevator pitch. 100%. It is a quick 30-second introduction as to who you are. It better be unique. It better be interesting. And for God's sakes, do not be boring. You're going to
Yes.
lose people. I think about this. My dad, talking about my dad again. My dad loves American Idol and all those, The Voice, and he loves those shows. And one thing that I notice about these shows is you can have a contestant walk on stage within 10 seconds or less. One or a few of those judges have already made their decision.
Right.
They
Right.
look and the way they carry themselves or
Hmm.
their mannerisms, and you can either know, okay, this person has it, or what is this? And
Right.
so that's an elevator pitch, right? It's like at the end of the day, you need to have that introduction, provide value as to who you are. It's a sale.
Right.
Every relationship is a sale. You have to win that relationship over, even if it's dating.
And I
Um,
would argue that social media itself, with what you post on social media, is also an elevator pitch because
yeah,
years ago, we used to kind of go over um, content and how we position it in social media, and working with some people who didn't really believe in the power of the written word. And I was like, no, I think you need to make sure that the text supports whatever you're if you're posting a link, you're posting a video,
right.
the text can be just as important because you're trying to sell, you're trying to get that engagement, you're trying to get that click. If you don't sell the person, then they may not click, they may not take that action.
You're
If
not memorable.
Yeah, like, take the time to craft well um well written messages, because that could be the difference between a click and an engagement to somebody who just scrolls by. So
Yeah,
in essence, it's an elevator pitch, social media.
it is, and it's an opportunity to get people engaged. I personally start my elevator pitch with a problem, because people love drama, they love conflict. So I'll actually going to read you the first line of my elevator pitch.
Okay, let's
Uh,
hear it.
yeah, people come to me when they need to scale their business. That's the start of it. So
Okay.
I'm giving you a problem. If you need,
Yes.
I'm making people emotionally feel, well, shit, I want to scale
Yeah.
my business. Can you help me? And so that's it.
Yeah.
And then I end it with sort of like this boom, which is, talking about boot camp. And I basically say, in fact, my most recent clients have reported an average margin boost of 6 points. If you're looking to scale your business, I'm your person.
There you go.
Yeah.
Less than 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah, so to me, I feel like that's an extension. That's a tip that you can apply to so many facets of your business life. Not just in sales, but also in marketing. Marketing as well. It's about grabbing attention. Again,
Yeah.
the saturation that we have of marketing messages that we receive all over the place. You need to stand out. You need to grab attention, and I think that's why it's important to have that mentality, that elevator pitch in whatever you do for your business.
And if you have kids, your kids need one. My daughter, we've worked on her elevator pitch because I want to equip my child with real life tools. Okay. I
Mm.
want her to understand how to convey who she is and what she does properly. I have a question. Is there someplace I can post in here my formula for an elevator pitch?
Yeah, you could do that at
Uh,
the end. At
Perfect.
the end, you can go into the Facebook feed or LinkedIn feed and
Perfect.
certainly go in there. But
Perfect.
yeah, that's funny that you bring up kids. I have a 14-year-old daughter myself, and yeah, that's some good advice. I'm going to have to
Oh,
work on her as well. All right, so couple more questions. I know we're coming up on the hour. It flies by when you're
I
having a
know.
great
I'm having
conversation.
so much fun.
So earlier you mentioned about hydration, and you work out every day. You were a former fitness trainer. I know I'm drinking water and coffee. I have that little vice there.
Welcome
Um,
to the club.
so you're obviously a big believer in mental and physical fitness. Can you explain why that's important in business?
Absolutely. Oh gosh, I told you I have no filter. Shit. Okay. So
I
when I was
noticed.
working, I know, sorry.
That's okay.
When I was spent, 10 years at Alpha Broder, I remember looking at, other leaders in the industry and other VPs and CEOs. And I just thought, get it together. Like, take care of yourself. You're leading a team of individuals. You're not even fit enough to do that. Get it together.
Fit
And
in
so
what
I
respect? Fit in what respect?
fit is in the respect of just having a fit mind and fit body, being able to
Okay.
handle the travel, handle the setting the booth up, tearing the booth down, pivot. And so I remember looking at some of the leaders I had, thinking, if I'm ever a leader in this industry, I'm going to do things different. I am going to preach wellness. I'm going to get my team to work out with me. I'm going to change people's lives still in that wellness category, no matter what I'm selling, because I am a firm believer that, God, everybody should be training for life, right? I have a business coach. Coaches need coaches. I said this a while ago, and I've heard people repeat it recently this week, and it's true. My own business coach, Will, love this man. He actually sent me a text before and said, "Hey, good luck today." So he coaches me, and he holds me accountable. We talked about my training style, and really why is fitness important? Because it allows you to be stronger, quicker, more nimble than the rest. And I know that I'm quicker than most people out there. And I've done that on purpose. I'm training for life. I have to be strong for my daughter. I have to be physically fit for my team. I have to be physically fit for all of the travel. I'm traveling, oh my gosh, so much between now and the end of the year. That's a lot on your body. You
Yes,
have to be
definitely.
on. I have to be on all the time. Last week, I was just on in the elevator. I had to be on. There was no downtime.
Right.
So at the end of the day, that is stamina. And that is, I'm a big believer in cardio. I do a lot of MMA. I do a lot of boxing, Pilates, yoga. I swim maybe once or twice a month. I try and get a swim in. I lift weights a lot, but that is all a mood booster. And I am able, because of that, to present the best version of myself.
Yeah. Now I feel deficient because I don't come close to doing as much working out as you do. But I do. I'm a big believer that eat right.
Yeah.
Exercise. Like to me, it doesn't even have to be much. You went over like a gamut of things that it's quite a bit. And I know a lot of people in this industry. They talk about, oh, I don't have time. You got to make time. You really do. Like for me, a 30-minute walk. I have a Peloton. I'll go for a 30-minute ride, and that'll be it. But I try to do it every day.
Yeah.
I drink a
Amazing.
lot of water. I've reduced the amount of alcohol that I drink in the last couple of years. A
Good.
lot of people during the pandemic went the other way.
Yeah.
Drank a lot, and stress and all that. Me, I unraveled. I went from drinking 14 beers a week to more like 14 a month, and now I'm down to like a handful of drinks a month. To me, I feel like it's resulted in better sleep, you
Yes.
know
Memory.
better memory, better or losing weight. I'm not trying to lose weight, and all of a sudden you cut out alcohol, and it's like it just kind of happens. So to me, I feel like, yes, if you, especially for those people who travel a lot. I wasn't at the ASI show last week, but I know people who in my company who are traveling just so much, and the fatigue, and then you factor in all the delays and all these problems that, with flying these days and travel. It's such a nightmare that you really need to be as mentally and physically fit
Yeah.
as possible to really sustain it.
And I just realized, I realized where this came from. Chris Blakesley, and I rarely talk to him, and I have such a huge respect for this man, but he hired me back at Alpha Broder. And I remember he was our VP of actually, and I'm sure he still does. He did a lot of weightlifting. He's jacked. A lot of boxing. I remember he did some boxing for a while, but I just remember follow what he was doing in his footsteps because he did it right. He look where
Yeah.
he is now.
Yeah.
And fitness was a huge aspect of that, and he's very vocal about that. He works out.
Yeah, I don't know Chris, but I've seen pictures of him, and
Guy's
I was like, oh,
jacked for
yeah, I was like,
sure.
this guy is pretty fit.
Yeah.
All right, Jenna, I have one more question. This has been a great conversation. Again, Jenna Quaranta from NASA Apparel. But my last question, I always end the podcast with a fun question. And if you go onto Jenna's social media, whether it's Instagram or on LinkedIn, you post a video of you doing a trick shot where you actually you shoot the cue ball over a hat and you sink the 8 ball. Difficult billiard shot. I've tried it a million times, never did it. Who taught you to do that? And have you ever made money shooting pool?
My dad, oh my gosh, my dad's an incredible, incredible billiard player. He used to run tables. He probably still can, but I grew up with a pool table in my home.
Okay.
My dad taught me that trick and how to masse around a ball. So
Right.
I'm definitely an okay pool player thanks to my dad. He taught me that.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
again, this has been a tremendous conversation. An hour has flown by, and that's always a good sign that the conversation was great. People were engaged. I'm sure there's a bunch of other comments and questions in there. I know that Ellie says not a vice coffee because I called it a vice earlier because. But look, hey, the funny thing about me, like in my attempt to become a little bit better in my wellness, like I've given up caffeinated coffee. I do decaf. It was awful at first, awful.
Yeah.
Now, a year later, I'm doing decaf, and I'm like, okay,
Listen,
yeah, I
that's
don't get those headaches anymore. Like it worked.
moderation with everything, but at the end of the day, I love a good whiskey sour, right? I do. I love a good eggnog and brandy at Christmas time, but for the most part, you'll never see me drink during the week or at a function in the workspace because I don't believe in it. I
Yeah,
want to stay sharp. I want to stay professional, and I just want to be me. I don't want anything else to misrepresent me in those moments. So
I love that. I
yeah.
love that. So Jenna,
Yeah.
if anyone wants to get a hold of you, how can they do that?
Oh gosh, JQ at knoss.com or on Instagram is the best way. I communicate a lot on Instagram. It's just Jenna Paranta. That's me.
Yeah, and you're also very responsive on LinkedIn as well. So I think you reached out to me, or I
We're,
reached out to you within minutes. You had responded back to me. So yeah, that's Jenna Quanta for NOS Apparel. Again, Jenna, thank you so much for your time
Thank
today.
you. Thank you for the opportunity to do this and talk about NOS and just share about wellness. And I appreciate you giving me the opportunity. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks again.
Okay.
We'll see you next time on the Social Angle.
Bye, guys.